It's 4 o'clock on a Monday, and you know what that means, don't you? It's time for another exciting episode of TAXITV Live. Yahoo! It's Monday, and I am pleased to welcome Taxi's head screener, Mr. Craig Pilo.
Hello, everybody.
Let me get the chat room over here so Craig and I can see you guys. We are doing, where the hell? I got a new second monitor. I'm still not used to using that. Craig and I, mostly Craig today, is going to be doing Ask Taxi's Head Screener Anything. But before we launch into the questions, which I've got some really good questions from you guys before the show today. Also pulled some out from the last time Craig was here that I didn't get to. Ran those through ChatGPT to make them a little shorter and succinct, and got those to go to as well. But I want to let you know that the rooms for Taxi's annual free conference for members and their guests, the Road Rally, the rooms are already 70% booked at the Westin LAX. So if you're coming, book your rooms now, because they're considerably cheaper than if you don't. And trust me, this happens every year. People miss the deadline, and the rooms are like $80 or $90 a night more than if you got them through Taxi. By the way, we don't make any money on those deals. The Road Rally is free. Somebody asked the other day if we would pay for their hire a babysitter for them at the rally. Yeah, we'd be happy to pay for that.
Wow.
No. On my children, we got asked that question. And the Eat and Greet, which used to be called the Mentor Luncheons, are now called the Eat and Greet Industry Lunch. Those are really super famous because you get about 7 different mentors that circulate. They rotate around the tables.
I host it. That's the
right.
main thing. That's the main thing.
That is the main thing. I'm so sorry.
I don't host it. I sit up there and tell everybody to move around.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Time to go. Move. But you'll get like 7 different mentors. So you might get a manager, music library owner, a music supervisor. We have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 10 successful members, which the members love meeting them and getting tips from them. But the cool thing that happens that we didn't even anticipate when we started this is that so many deals happen in the Eat and Greet lunches because members, oh, you play saxophone? I need saxophone on the stuff that I'm doing. Or you do great tracks, I'm a great writer. So relationships happen not just with the industry there, but they happen with each other. So, I forget what they cost this year. I want to say $65 or $70. And again, I think we make about 20 cents a lunch, and we just let the hotel keep it.
Not a big profit margin.
No, it's a pass-through basically, and the difference between taxes or something, it worked out that we were going to make like 23 cents.
Yeah, someone said $65. So
yeah, okay, there you go. So we just said the hotel, we're not that interested in making 23 cents a head, just make it a pass-through. So the money goes through Taxi, but then goes to the hotel. And honestly, let's face it, you go to a restaurant and you have a hamburger and fries at the hotel restaurant, that's going to be $25, $30. Add a beer to that at lunch, now you're up to $42 or whatever it is. So for the difference between the 65 and the 42 or whatever you'd spend, you get to meet a lot of great people. And every month, I'm the last person that sees the members' success stories before they go in the newsletter. And I've got to tell you, like 30 to 50% of them say, I met this library owner as a mentor at the luncheon, or I met this library owner at the rally. I met this guy that I started co-writing with 4 years ago at the rally, and now I'm in all the libraries he or she was in. So I really encourage you to go to that. Like I said, I'm not encouraging you because we make money on you showing up. It's just a great opportunity that you're wasting by eating at McDonald's or Taco Bell or whatever's across the street.
Plus, there's some good success stories on top of that have come out of there. I know somebody recently, they got a placement in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I was curious, and I said, well, how did you do it? Because it was a big movie. It wasn't like a Hallmark movie of the week. It was a big movie that was in theaters.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I said, how did you get it? And she said, well, I went to the mentor lunch. And it was like 5 or 6 years ago. It was even more than that.
Yeah.
I forget what year it happened. I want to say that happened around 23, 24. And she said the mentor lunch was around 2015. So like 7 or 8 years had gone by, and the connection came to fruition over 7 or 8 years, but they met at the luncheon.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Yeah.
So I strongly encourage you to go to that so you don't miss out on any opportunities. That's right. We're just talking before we went live. We both got allergies going on, so we're eating cough drops. I got a frog in my throat. I guess it's better than a turtle. Turtles can block your windpipe. You need another one?
I'll have one on reserve, yeah. Thank you.
There you go.
AIDS.
All right.
Hopefully it's not that.
What did I do? What happened?
We go off the air?
No.
Oh, your thing's, the window's behind.
Yeah. There we go. I was checking our audio levels, and that's what happens. Where do I order the mentor lunch tickets? Liz will give you everything you need to know. If you've already signed up to the Road Rally, go into your account, go back to the Road Rally, and the button to do that is there. Also, our newsletter's coming out probably tomorrow, by the grace of God, because I delivered my stuff late to the staff. But was I working till 11 o'clock on it last night? Yes, I was. Just so you guys could have a fresh new newsletter. But it's got a lot of rally stuff in this newsletter with links to everything you'll need. Okay, I also want to mention next week's show, I want a member to join me as my guest remotely on video. The member who makes the best pitch in the comments section after this video goes up on YouTube today, not in the chat room, but in the comments, who makes the best pitch why you think you'd be a good guest. You can ask me anything you want. You can talk about anything you want. You could complain about Taxi. You could tell us we're the best company on the planet. Anything you want to do, but you got to make a good pitch. Just like Hollywood. And if you make a great pitch, I will greenlight your butt for next week's show. Then the week after that, I am thrilled that Ronan Chris Murphy is back in the United States and will be my guest on that show as well. All right, let's start out with a question. This is from Don Ruzek. How do you listen to submissions, i.e. do you use headphones, small speakers, high-fidelity speakers, etc.?
I assume I'm answering for the screeners.
Yeah, not just yourself. And Craig, by the way, was one of our very best screeners for several years, and then we needed a new head screener, and he got the gig, so he's seen it from several angles.
Both sides. I have a home studio at home, a very small commercial production facility. So I used to have 2 sets of speakers, and I also had 2 sets of high-quality headphones. But every screener now has been remote since COVID, and since they are all professionals in their respective field, we kind of trust them that they are not listening on iPhone headphones or a laptop speaker. Most of the screeners, all of the screeners have high fidelity listening devices. And like you said off the air earlier, I don't really think the fidelity would be the only reason something would get returned anyways. That would probably be in conjunction with something else that was either misaligned with what the listing wanted, or possibly something that was maybe not mixed well. But as far as the fidelity goes, it would be rare that something would get returned for only the fidelity.
It would have to sound like this.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what they would have to do to it to get it returned for just like, oh, we didn't have enough high end, or oh, the bass was too boomy.
Yeah, if it just sounds obviously bad.
Yeah.
And it's also worth mentioning that, it's not just the Taxi screener. It's the screener, then it's the music library owner, then after the music library owner, when somebody plucks that piece of music from the playlist or the catalog at the library, the editor is going to listen on whatever the editor listens on. A music supervisor is going to listen whatever they listen on. It's just so all over the place. There's really nothing you can do except to expect it's going to be heard on multiple.
And that's actually, well, you as an engineer can weigh in on this, but when I do a mix for somebody else, and it's rare now because I pawn that off, but when I was mixing, I would make sure my final mix sounded good on 3 or 4 devices, on headphones, on my studio monitors, in my car, and then I have like a home theater 5.1 set up in my house, and I would go in and listen in there because that has a sub. That has a sub. So, if the bass is out of whack and it starts moving across the floor, to trim off 80K or whatever, So listening on a few different playback devices is not a bad idea.
There you go. Okay, and a second question from Don Ruzek. How many submissions on average do you listen to in a day? So I think that Don means how many.
The screeners.
Yeah.
Well, we cap them at 4 hours. So nobody's allowed to work more than a 4-hour shift. I don't think most of them even do that. And when I was a screener, I used to do a 2-hour shift and then I would take a break to prevent ear fatigue, to prevent myself from writing the same thing. So most screeners, I think, want to say do 2-hour shifts, and we encourage them to screen about 15 to 20 things per hour.
Well, it all depends whether they're doing instrumentals or they're doing songs.
Absolutely.
Instrumentals
that are 90 seconds, those are gonna be screened quicker than full-length songs or movie cues,
right?
Or movie trailers. So the number is slidable. I think that's kind of the wrong.
What we don't do is we don't put a quota on them.
That's right.
And we don't pay them piecemeal. In other words, if they listen to more, they get paid more, because we didn't want to encourage them to listen faster.
They do not get paid by the submission. That is correct.
And somebody somewhere else asked another question about how long do you listen to a piece all the way to the end?
Usually if it's a song, like through the bridge, but if it's like an instrumental cue, they listen to the whole thing, and everything that gets forwarded, obviously, you have to listen to the whole thing. So most of it. If it's a song, at least through the bridge, because that way you've heard all the sections, the intro, the verse, the pre-chorus, the chorus, the second verse, the second chorus, make sure the trajectory's right and everything's in sync.
And I don't know if you guys know this. I'm sure I mentioned it on previous episodes where Craig has been on here. But maybe the main thrust of his job, other than answering emails from members with issues, is checking the work of the screeners. He's the person who onboards the new screeners, who trains them. It's not unusual for us to onboard somebody and train them and then go, you know what, I don't think this is going to work out, because they may have a great resume but not a great attitude or great speaking voice through their fingers. A lot of it is communication. So he hears the music that they hear when they are questioned by a member. Do you think the screener did the right thing? He then has to do a very deep dive on it and make sure the screeners. So he's constantly checking their work to make sure that they're quality control. He is our QA department or QC.
And we get some legitimate questions about the music and stuff, but I would say after now we have a good crop of screeners right now. They're right. What did we say? 98% of the time. We looked it up one time, right? 99% of the time they get it right.
Yeah, and we've taken complaints that were like the biggest, hairiest complaints and posted the listing, the music with the members' permission, and the complaint on the forum, and then asked the members on the forum to weigh in. And that's where the first time we went, wow, the public, our own members, are agreeing with the screeners about 98% of the time. So feeling pretty good. You may not like what they tell you, but they're not listening for what they like.
Right.
They're listening for what the company asks.
And that's what a lot of members don't get. Getting your music returned or not used or passed over for something, it sucks. Like, we all want to hear that our music is the greatest thing ever, and it might be, but the listings are screened based on how well it fits the listing more than anything else. And I think a lot of members forget that when they email in and complain. It's like what you wrote and what you recorded and produced is great. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not what they asked for, but what you did is fine. And that's the issue more than anything else, the pitch accuracy.
One of the things I'm going to bring up at this year's Road Rally is it's very easy when you sit down and write to a brief, write to a taxi listing, to go off the path. You sit down and go, okay, this is what my job is. I've listened to the references. I see what they have in common, the overall vibe. They're all in a major key. They're all up-tempo-ish. They all have a positive lyric, whatever those things are that they have in common that should guide you to do what you do. And you start, and about an hour into your session, you come up with something and go, ooh, that's cool, but it's not what the brief asked for. And then you keep going on that new thing because it's so cool. And before you know it, you finish something that you wrote for the brief that doesn't sound like what you should have written for the brief.
It happens.
Yeah, you would know. I mean, he's a composer as well.
Of course.
Okay, here's one from Dean Demare. Sorry if I butchered your name, Dean. Demaree. Demare. Do we have to pay for a license for that?
If you sang a familiar melody, then yes.
I did.
Oh, that's Amore? What were you saying? What's it?
In the briefs, is there a specific scale used, like the GEMS, which is an acronym for Geneva Emotion Scale, to describe the desired mood for that individual listing?
Wow. Is there a scale to describe the mood? What an interesting question.
It is.
No, there's not a scale. You mean like a rubric that we go by or something like that? No.
Yeah, I mean, we looked it up. I mean, frankly, Tom, who is our senior director of A&R, and myself had never heard of GEMS, so we looked it up. But no, we don't use it. I mean, frankly, we don't even come up with the emotion. It's the person who's running the brief. And I could tell you with about 99.9% certainty that I can't think of a client that has ever used it. And if I asked every music library owner, every editor working on putting music in TV shows, and every music supervisor, they'd go, "GEMS? What? Huh? No." And I'm not saying that to put you down or be hurtful, but what I'm saying is,
there's not a slidable scale or anything. It fits
right,
or it doesn't. Yeah.
But it's just like you would expect somebody who paints portraits to know how to paint sad eyes versus happy eyes, right? You learn these things by doing. So, as you said before we went live on the air, that, what did you say about this? Gosh, you said something really smart.
Really?
You did. I was going to write it down and put it on my calendar.
All right, thank you.
No, it's just learn by doing. Oh, you said listen to the references.
Yeah. I mean, if it fits on a list with the references, you're in the right spot, you know. And again, I think that's what a lot of people, when they call in or when they complain, they say, I wrote a really great piece. And I agree with them most of the time. I think we have some really talented writers and composers here, but what people miss sometimes is that whatever you submit to a listing needs to fit on a list with those references.
You're fine. I'm just, you're a little.
I talk with my hands, so if I whack the microphone.
No, I was watching the levels.
Yeah. So I mean, I think as long as if what you submit fits pretty seamlessly onto a list with the references, there's the answer to that GEMS question.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, my something that's got a lot of minor sevenths in it, that's not positive. Major chords are positive.
Yeah, too many color tones and extensions.
Yeah. So don't overthink it. That's probably the best advice we can give you. And Dean asks a follow-up question, which is, I'm new to writing to a request by a client. I notice that I'm consistently missing the mark on mood in my submissions. Any input is appreciated. Any further study material or guidance, understanding the mood. So I think we just covered that.
We did. So, but what people also can improve on too is what they're listening for. The mood is going to be kind of defined by the tempo, maybe the chord structure, the chord movement, the instrumentation, and things like that. Also, maybe the dynamics and the groove, depending on the reference. So, in addition to just making sure your submission can fit onto a list with the references, which are a guide, you should also take into account like pertinent information that's in the listing. Era, production aesthetic, instrumentation, tempo. Is there a big dynamic wave in what's going on? Or if it's hip hop, it's just all kind of like a brick. Or in a singer-songwriter, you've got this fantastic low points and high points, and all that stuff affects the mood. Or in a trailer, They typically start simple and sparse, and then at the end they're big and bold with drums and percussion and sound effects and everything. So that stuff all contributes to the mood. So, improving your listening too will also help you and I know professional musicians that don't listen that well, and it's frustrating because that's also something that comes with experience and you learn by doing. If you get better at listening, you'll get better at recreating what they're asking for.
By the way, Dean, if you're not signed up to come to the Road Rally, please try really hard to come, because every single year, this is going to be our 29th year of doing it, every year people come up to me and go, I think my song didn't get picked or my instrumental didn't get picked to get played on the panel in the ballroom, but man, am I glad I came, because I learned so much listening to other people's music where you're not, putting up your shield, your armor, as people are listening up there, which I really give a lot of credit to the people who submit to those things. But the audience members always tell us that they learn so much by hearing other people's music critiqued. And they go, oh, I do that. Oh, so Dean, really, really try hard. By the way, the ballroom schedule is done. I think I've got one person to fill in on one panel, so that's listed as a to be announced or something. But it should be coming out tomorrow in the Taxi newsletter, so keep your eyes open for that in your email box. And I would say 3 or 4 days after that, we should have all the mentors finalized and the breakout classes finalized. I am not exaggerating. Like I didn't exaggerate any year. Last year, though, I did say I think this one might be the best rally we've ever had. And it turned out to be much better than we thought. I feel even more confident about this year's rally. The panels and the panelists are great. We have cut back. We used to have like 75 to 90 classes every year at the Road Rally. It was too much. We had a lot of repetition, and frankly, some of those classes just didn't need to be there. So we have gone through and eliminated the chaff and only kept the wheat. Going to be a good rally. Okay, next question from Nancy Turco. I'm a Taxi member and frustrated with the critique and forwarding process. Well, you're talking to the right guy.
We shall see.
And I'm not saying am not saying my songs are all good, just like 98% of them.
Okay.
Kidding, Nancy. She didn't say that. Sometimes I get helpful suggestions on improving my song submissions, and I tweak them, and then a different improvement suggestion is sent to me. Excuse me. The last one in particular suggested that I get another singer. Ouch. It doesn't mean you're a bad singer either. It could mean that your voice wasn't right for that song. Or maybe should have been a male and you were a female, or vice versa, whatever. I get the broadcast quality suggestions and work to improve the sound, but it's never quite right. Do you ever have a company needing just lyrics or a song that doesn't have to be perfect? I'm an old fart and I need better sound production tools, I guess. Very frustrating. I had a position in radio on a morning show, and I regularly sent in songs that were always played, which were parodies of national or local goings-on. But maybe the engineer in the radio studio worked on the sound before airing them. Okay, so let me trim this down to the pertinent stuff, which is she's frustrated that one screener will say it doesn't work because of this, and then another screener on the same thing says it doesn't work because of that, and they give different feedback about different aspects. Why does that happen?
We get that question a lot. They accuse us of being contradictory, or what's the other one? I don't know, inconsistent.
And if they're all the same answer, they think that we're having AI write them or something.
Right. It's a little crazy. Like, some feedback is universal, but most of it is pretty exclusive to that listing that you're submitting for. So, if you're submitting a song to a song that's faster, they're going to say, hey, that song needs a faster tempo. If you're submitting it to the next listing is the song's a little slower, you're going to say, well, this submission's too fast. So cross-referencing that feedback is not always helpful. The best thing is to take the feedback exclusive to that particular listing and move on. Submitting stuff to similar listings, I could see where it could get more confusing, but if you're submitting different things to different listings with different references, I would expect different feedback. And saying it's inconsistent or one person said this and one person said that, not one song is going to fit every single listing. So if you submit it to a bunch of things, you're going to get different feedback based on how well it fit that listing. So I understand the confusion and the frustration, but, like we said on the last question, submit something that fits on a playlist with the references that adheres to the criteria in the listing, and you'll be in good shape,
A related thing that I saw on the forum on Sunday night while I was working, because that's what I do, was a member, fairly new member, saying, I see 2 listings that were published in fairly close succession, and they're virtually identical. What's up with that? So I looked at them, and yeah, they were for the same genre, and there were similarities. But I don't know why I did this, but I did. I took both listings, put them into ChatGPT 5.0, and said, show me the differences between these two. And there were many differences. They were, in fact, for the same genre. But you and I talked about this earlier today, not related to the show. Why might two listings be remarkably similar?
Well, you could have two separate libraries pitching to the same show. You could have two separate libraries pitching to a movie and a TV show. They could be
looking for the same.
That are looking for the same genre, especially if it's a popular genre like singer-songwriter, country, hip-hop. I mean, those are popular genres that are needed by more than one production. They could very well be for the same show. I mean, it's not uncommon for one music supervisor to be in bed with 4 or 5 libraries and invite them all to send a playlist for season 2 of a TV show, and a few different libraries get the brief. That's not uncommon. But it, like I said, it could be for 2 different shows, different project. One could be for an independent movie, for one scene. Don't always know.
Do you ever have a company needing just lyrics or a song that doesn't have to be perfect? So let me answer that by saying you hire a painter to paint your house, and the painter shows up and goes, "Oh, I only do trim." And by the way, it's not the best paint job on the trim, but I finished it.
Yeah, I would think no. You got to have more of a full package, and that's also, we get that question a lot with the demos. How good does your demo have to be? And I think the demos have to be good enough to sell the song. They have to be produced well enough that you can hear the intent with the melody, with the groove, with the structure. Does it have to be $1 million production? No. I think you can come up with a really well-written song that sells the song on a laptop, but you have to do the work. You can't expect the producer to make the song for you. They can dress it up and put the icing on it, but the chord structure, the melody, the groove, the transitions, the structure of the song should be in place.
Another great reason to come to the Road Rally, because we do a thing at the end of the day. I can't remember if it's Friday night around 5:15, 5:30, or Saturday night. Excuse me, but Steve Block, who's been a publisher in Nashville for like 30 or 40 years, brings demos of songs that got cut and became hits. And I sit up there with him just to add a little comedic value. And cause Steve's very dry, very serious guy. Anyway, every year now I play a demo of a song that is still, after me being in the industry for 50 years for real, best demo I've ever heard in my life. And it's nothing more than a pretty mediocre, maybe even bad sounding electric piano and a vocal that will make the hair on your arm stand up. That's just it. Piano vocal. The band heard it. And I can never remember who the huge big country act heard it. And as soon as they heard it, they said, we're cutting it. They released it as a single. And I play the demo version and the version that hit radio. You will actually probably like the demo version by 20 or 30% better. So it just goes to show.
That's always fun.
A simple demo of a great song with a great vocal delivering it can get a multi-platinum, multi-Grammy winning act to cut your song. So there's that. Here's one from Greg Trammell, Tramel. I butchered names. I'm so sorry, Greg. Sometimes I create music for sync that is purposely not a full song with normal structure, etc. Say just a cool 30 seconds to a minute. The screener comes back and critiques it like it was supposed to be a whole song, i.e. needs more developmental arc, or it's too loopy so it got returned. What do you want exactly?
Well, if it's a song, if they're requesting songs, they don't just want the verse or the chorus. Again, what I was saying before, it needs to be. You can't leave. Listen, A&R people are pretty good at their job, but you can't give them too much credit. I don't think anybody gives them too much credit, for the record. But you need to. Everything needs to be spelled out how it's going to go, right? I mean, you have to do the work. I mean, they're listening for songs that they can take and bring to the artist, and replace the vocal by and large, and if you leave too much work for them, they're just going to move on to something that's more ready to go. 30 seconds isn't going to do anybody any good.
I have a sneaking suspicion that Greg has probably watched TV and noticed that, oh, there's a song. Oh, look at that. Only played
They only use 30 seconds of it, yeah.
Right. Which is true. It's so incredibly rare that an instrumental or a song gets used all the way through. But if you want to know a little inside baseball on how to make that happen, that is do solo piano cocktail jazz, because that almost always plays in the middle of a husband and wife cooing over dinner together for an anniversary, or fighting over dinner in a restaurant with cocktail jazz playing in the background, and the scenes are always like 3-4 minutes long. So your whole thing gets played and you make more money. But for the most part, Craig is absolutely right. You will hear snippets because they don't write and edit the scenes around the length of your song. They edit your song or your instrumental to the length of, it's actually called a beat. A beat is what happens within a scene. I go into the house and I walk into the kitchen. So that starts the scene, walking into the house. I've gotten home, I walk into the house. When I go to the kitchen and open up the refrigerator door, that's a beat. So it's a moment within the scene, and it may just be wah, 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 wah when you open the refrigerator door and there's no 6-pack of frosty cold beer in there. So yes, you might only hear wah, 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 but they might have edited that from, a 2-minute instrumental cue. So write full stuff. Unless we've had a couple listings, I believe, where they said, "I just want a chorus." Like,
really?
Somebody was looking for stuff for TV commercials, and they wanted choruses that were, like almost a spoken phrase, like who let the dogs out, kind of stuff.
They were just shopping for the hook,
right?
Okay,
but those are. I think we've had 2 of those in 29 years of being, or no, 30. In January, it'll be 34 years we've been doing this. We're getting good at it. Okay, this one is from Peter Dahl-Bredin. Something I've been curious about as I do more writing for libraries is, number 1, how often do songs signed to an exclusive contract never find placements? Let's deal with that one first, and we'll go to number 2.
Well, I would imagine that happens all the time because there's only so many placements out there, and most libraries give music supervisors or directors, whoever's doing the music, a list of choices. Sometimes 10, sometimes 20. Sometimes they say, I need music for a whole series, in which case you want to give them 50 to 100. So it's really up to them. You can't get mad at your publisher or even the music supervisor, because a lot of times there's more than one person in the room, whether it's a spotting session or the final listen through, and there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen for stuff like that, what makes it in and what doesn't. So sometimes it's one person, sometimes it's done by committee, but there's always more choices, and they love having choices. So sometimes your music gets used, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, and it's a numbers game. The music licensing industry is a numbers game. If I understand, you create a piece of music, it comes from your musical heart and soul. Mm-hmm. It's an extension of you, and you're so proud of it, and you should be. And you think everybody else is going to listen to it and feel about it like you feel. That's not going to happen. Just like when you go to a museum, not every picture resonates for you, every painting. So they're looking for stuff that resonates for the scene. So they may love your piece of music, but they can't use it because it doesn't work. It doesn't make the scene sadder or more emotional. Instead, it lets it lay there like a lox. It's just kind of flat. No fault of your music. It just doesn't work well in that scene. So understand that you could have 1,000 tracks in 20 different production music libraries. Over a period of 10 years, probably only 30 to 50% of those tracks will ever get licensed. And it's the same for everybody. So that's why it's better to be fast and good than slow and amazing. Because they don't put music in because it's amazing. They put it in because it's right with the scene, right with the picture, right with the emotion and the vibe. So, you know what? Think of it as planting seeds. You are the Johnny Appleseed of music for licensing. You plant as many little seedlings as you can and know that 70 or 80% of those seedlings will grow into trees. Kind of like that for music licensing. Okay, and he had a second question, which is how to avoid having tracks that get signed to a library that are seldom or never placed.
How to avoid that?
Yeah.
We'll give the library what they're looking for.
Well, but they may go, yeah, this is what we asked for, and they sign it and they put it in there, but none of their customers in the form of music editors or music supervisors.
There's a few tricks.
Never have that request, number
Right.
one. Mention your tricks, because I've got one.
I mean, there's just a bunch. For one, writing cues is a lot different than writing score. So when you're writing score, you're writing for a very specific picture, a very specific instance, female, male, animal, whatever. And cues need to be a little bit more diverse than that. They need to fit into more than one situation. They need to serve more than one situation. So cues are a little less direct, a little less, what do I want to say, obligatory, acute, like a little less one-dimensional. They need to serve a bunch of purposes. And there's your typical.
Can I paraphrase that for you?
Yes, please.
A cue will get sold or licensed more often if it can be used in many types of scenes.
Right.
Versus score is written for that scene.
Right.
A music library signs stuff because, you could use this for a Christmas family get-together. You could use it for two people falling in love, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. And if you're talking instrumental stuff, there's things you can do. 2 to 3 minutes is typically a good time with some edit points. They love edit points because with clean breaks or a nice cadence at the edit point, and especially a cadence at the end that resolves. Man, we've gotten so many cues lately where it's a pretty decent cue and then it cuts off. And it's like, all right, that is useless. Everything needs to, if you're going to do a cue, make sure it can end a scene dramatically. They love that. They love that they can just, and sometimes they might use just the ending. A sting, we call it. So,
Down. Here, I'll play you.
Exactly, just a sting.
Let me show you a sting ending. Bam, 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 bam. They might use just that much.
Yeah. So one of the alternate mixes that a lot of libraries ask for is just the sting, because they might just use that for somebody walking into a door, out of a door.
That's out of a door right there. They walk out of a door, down.
Yeah.
End of beat, end of scene.
Yeah, another thing too is that for a lot of music that I hear now on TV, it's not as busy as it used to be. Things are a lot more underscore oriented, simple. It's more thematic than melodic. For better or for worse, that's just the way it is. So, again, that makes it a little bit more universal if it's not as specific. The melody doesn't tie it to a specific scenario. It's more chordal and thematic rather than specific and melodic. So there's lots of tricks for that. I'm sure there'll be a class on that at the rally somewhere, right?
I honestly haven't memorized all the classes yet.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll come up. You'll hear great examples. Again, by being in the audience during the listening panels, you'll hear examples of stinger endings or good edit points. Titles. I did an episode about titles probably a month or two ago. I think I've done a couple episodes about titles over the years. I cannot begin to tell you how important the titles are. Not just the title won't get you forwarded by a taxi screener because they're judging the music, not the title. But the library that gets a playlist of 5, 10, 20, 50 things from Taxi after we've screened, a particular listing, they'll probably start at the top and work their way down, or they might get attracted to, that's a great title. I got to listen to that one first. But where it really becomes important is when a music supervisor or the executive producer of a TV show reaches out to the library and says, we need surf music. My favorite example for this. We need surf music, a bunch of kids going skinny dipping in the ocean, and they're about to get in trouble when their parents show up, find them drinking beer and skinny dipping.
Naked,
yeah, so what kind of music would play for that? Well, obviously, something probably with a little surf rock attitude. And your title would be, a title that, if you called it Joni's song, doesn't tell you anything. If it's called Surf's Up, or Beach Bunny Hip Hop, or something that infers that has something to do with the beach, those are going to be the things that the editors or the music supervisors are going to listen to first, because your title has already telegraphed at least the ballpark the music should be in.
Yeah, don't send us Michael Laskow's greatest hit number 467. I get that. The composer's name, 466. Taxi Q 432. What's that? That doesn't tell me anything, you know.
Yeah.
And
it also sends a message to people in the industry that you're a rookie.
And they want something that's special, that has a little bit of intent, and you, like you said, you telegraphed the how it sounds by the title. Craig's Q number 735. Or Taxi Q 735. I don't want the 700
midnight mix.
Yeah, I don't want the 735th Q you've done that week for Taxi. You know, I want something tailored to what I need. That makes me feel special. You're going to lock in this scene for me. You know, so, and that's something that doesn't take very much talent to do. You don't need any music talent to listen to what you've created and give it a title that fits the style.
A lot of people have a hard time with that. I have found that it's one of the best uses for people in our world of AI. Go to ChatGPT or Grok, which is also free. You can go to x.com and click Grok in the left-hand column and just type in a very simple prompt that says, I need title suggestions for instrumental cues that are for surf type of music.
Go to an online thesaurus and, you know, find alternate words for surfing or words that go along with it and stuff.
Yeah, and try not to make them too cute and too catchy. 'Cause, you know, a little bit of cute and a little bit of catchy can work, but the main point is trying to telegraph what they can expect that music to be, the genre maybe.
2-word titles are great.
Yeah.
You know,
surf's up.
Bottoms up.
Woohoo! Glad the cap was just on that. This one is from Glenn Ruger regarding return submissions. Boy, are you asking the right guy. If one quickly makes the suggestions offered by the screener, is there a process for resubmitting for that particular taxi listing?
Sorry. No, we get that a lot too, because a lot of the fixes are easy. You know, if you just fix the ending, I think this would be a great cue. Your output level's too low. Just remaster this, rebound. You know, unfortunately, no, there isn't time, because we get a lot of submissions, and I answered that same question today. Somebody did have a couple easy fixes, and it would not have taken a long time to fix. Unfortunately, for sync, everything needs to be ready to go as is. And here we don't have the staff to go back and forth, and maybe it takes literally somebody an hour to do it. It could take somebody else a week. By the time you get notified that you've gotten your music returned to you, we've already sent the playlist to the client anyways. So.
And we have, I'm going to give you the best example ever. Years ago, we decided to let a guy, because we loved this piece of music. It was so good for the taxi listing. And it wasn't forwarded because the keyboard sound just the mix was problematic. And the guy called up and begged and pleaded, can I please just do a quick remix and send it back in? And we hadn't sent the music off, which usually the day you're notified is also the day that the music goes to the client. In this case, it hadn't yet. So we said, okay, fine. Didn't show up the next day. All he had to do was remix it. 2-3 hours max. Next day after that, didn't show up. Finally, after like 4 or 5 days, we called the guy and said, what up? And he goes, I ordered a new Korg keyboard. I was waiting for that to come in so I could change the sound of the pads. Now, it's already been approved other than the mix. So now you're going to start changing stuff. And the bottom line is, let's say that we've got 51 people this month who we've given permission to make a change and resubmit it. We now have to pay our programmer to go in and change the back end of the submission process so that it can accept resubmitted late or fixed submissions. Then we would have to track everybody to know, okay, we can't send this off to client ABC because we're waiting for 2 people to get back to us. People being people, they somehow miss the deadlines, and so that's why we don't do it. Okay. Moving on. These are some old questions from the last time you were here or the time before that that I kept in a file named Craig. Oddly enough, I knew exactly who it was for.
Great.
Okay, this one's from Louis Bernstein. Do screeners ever argue about whether something should be forwarded or not?
No, because they don't know each other. They're all remote.
Now they are.
Yeah.
Did you work here as a screener
Yeah,
when it was still
of course.
we had the cubicles of
course.
14 people sitting
Yeah.
in there? Something I saw, which was kind of the opposite of this, is not the screeners arguing about stuff, but there were times where one screener would be sitting next to another who they were friendly with and did the same.
Hey, what do you think?
Yeah, they did
Yeah.
the same genre.
Yeah.
Because you can't ask a country person to listen to a hip hop track
Right.
for a second opinion. So they would do that. The other thing that happened more frequently, which actually made me really proud of this company and what we do here, is there were many times over the years that they were in a room that was about 25 feet wide, maybe 35, 40 feet deep, and 2 rows of cubicles. And one of the screeners would go, maybe blurt out an expletive or a woohoo, pull off their headphones, pull the jack out of the system, and hit play and play it loud so that all the other screeners had to hear it. And it was so awesome when that happened to see 14 people all cheering for a piece of music from a Taxi member. So that happened. Okay, moving
But
on.
argue about it for no.
No. They might go to Craig. They might hit him up after they finish screening.
So, hey, what do you think?
Yeah, I was on the fence about
Yeah,
this one.
yeah.
That's part
that
of his
happens,
job.
Yeah.
And he always says, no, I would
Yeah,
never forward.
never forward that. No.
We're kidding. This is from Sam Ashwell. If my mix is a little off, but the track fits the brief, do you still forward it, or is that a deal breaker?
It's usually not a deal breaker for just the mix by itself, but it depends on how bad,
Right.
and it also depends
There
on
are
how
degrees.
accurate what you're submitting fit the thing. So it's hard to answer that, but usually something wouldn't get returned for any one thing. There's usually a couple things wrong before they would send
Like
it
an
back.
airplane never crashes because of one thing.
That's right.
If I may add on to that, here's a great example. So everything about your track, you nailed the genre, you nailed the mood or the emotion, everything they asked for, you nailed, but the keyboard is just a little hot in the chorus. The screener is not going to say, oh man, this is perfect, but I'm not going to forward it because the keyboard is 2 dBs hot in the chorus. They would probably say something to the Taxi member like, love this, great fit, good pitch, gonna forward it. By the way, the keyboard might be a little hot in the chorus. Check it out for the next time. Is that a fair assessment?
Very fair.
That's because I used to be a screener for the first 2.5, 3 years. Here's one from Tommy Bergenhouse. Do you actually listen to the whole track before making a call or the decision?
Well, didn't we already answer that one?
Well, we said how far do you listen, but yeah, I mean,
If it's a forward, typically they listen to the whole thing. Absolutely, yeah. Because
and if it's a return, they have to listen to enough to know.
Yeah, but the forwards especially because let's say there's a skip or a pop near the end. That's happened.
Right.
It's on the list of things to send to the thing, and I'll check it, and I'll hear like a pop, or I'll see a thing at the very end. And we can't. Sometimes we can't do that if it's broadcast ready and there's like a loud pop or something at the end that's wrong. We have to listen all the way through to the things that get forwarded.
And the things that if the concern is do you listen to like 10 seconds like an A&R person would, or a music
We don't do
supervisor
that.
or an editor and make the decision? No, because we owe you a fair listen. So we listen to make sure, as we said earlier, in case you weren't here, on a song we listen at least as far as the bridge, so we've heard all the elements. Instrumentals are generally 1 minute to 2 minutes long. We listen to the whole thing. There you go. Do some genres get more deals than others? Do you mind if I take that one?
Yeah,
and
please.
then you can add on, which is, we don't know how many deals are gotten because we send the stuff off to the libraries. We're not involved in the paperwork or the deal. And unfortunately, the vast majority of our members never bother to let us know when they get something signed. We find out from members, oh yeah, I started working with this library because I met him at the eat and greet lunch at the Road Rally 12 years ago, and I now have 7 albums worth of stuff in their library and probably make $3,000 a year from working with that client that I met at the eat greet luncheon. But we don't know, what are those 7 albums? What genres are they? Nobody tells us, other than the couple dozen people that write in to reports for member success stories for the newsletter. So I encourage you and I beg of you, please let us know. The libraries don't tell us either. The libraries don't tell us. We've had people that have gotten $50,000 checks for doing a big TV commercial, and the library didn't tell us and the member didn't tell us. So we just don't know. But being somebody who owns a library and somebody who's been around production music for a lot of years, if you had to give advice, because I'm pretty sure that what Alicia Tyrone is asking is...
What genre?
Yeah, which ones get the most action?
It's really hard to say. I mean, there was a while when everything on TV was hip hop, right?
Everything.
There was a while where everything was hip hop. And there was a while, like, when the True Detective thing came out, where everything was blues and that kind of Americana thing. Now I think we're in various transitions of that, So I think that may have been true at certain points in time. I don't think it is right now, and I know what everybody else knows about listening and watching to TV. If you hear more than one genre, more than that would be your answer, and I don't hear it heavily weighted at the moment.
It also depends on, is it a show, is it a commercial, is it a movie, but let's call it TV for the sake of argument here. Sit with a legal pad on your lap or nearby on the couch and a pen and Shazam on your phone. And every time you hear a piece of music, Shazam it. It will save that in your library, kind of a chronological library in Shazam. But you'll find out pretty quickly that shows have a sonic palette. That True Detective is going to sound radically different than a sitcom might, or radically different than a sci-fi movie. So it really depends. So the smartest thing that you can do is know the genres that you can do well and try and find shows that use that genre pretty frequently, and then try and look for taxi listings that ask for that genre. Because you don't want to submit a genre to a library that you have a relationship with and loves you and makes you feel so special, which I understand. It's very gratifying. They may sign something just because they like you and put it in their catalog, but it's something their clients rarely ask for because they don't work on sci-fi shows. So now you've tied up a really good sci-fi track in a well-meaning library's catalog, but is highly unlikely to get used because they just don't have clients like that. So there's strategy involved. Here's one from Elliot Thompson III. When you guys return a song, how much should I read into the comments from the screener? Like, is it just not right for that one listing, or does it mean the track's got bigger issues?
Another good question as far as the returns go. Do not take any of it to heart or personally. The screener doesn't know who you are. They are not cutting you down. You should not give up music because of something a screener says. First of all, take it with a grain of salt, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's one person's opinion. And I think we answered something close to this early on. Some advice is good universal feedback. Some of it is specific to the listing. If they say stuff like, hey, your chorus could be stronger. You need a better chorus hook. Your chorus needs to stand out more. And you get that feedback from more than one screener about the same song. I think there's a little bit of legitimacy there. I think you should revisit the strength of your chorus, which, depending on the genre, country, pop, alt rock, whatever, your chorus is kind of going to be selling your song. So if you hear from every screener that you've ever submitted it to that your chorus, hey, it needs a stronger hook, it needs better lyrics, it needs to stand out more from your verse, then yeah, I would take that as good universal feedback and maybe do something to strengthen the value of your song. If they say something like the tempo wasn't right for this listing, that is not an insult to your intelligence or anything like that. It means it wasn't right for that listing. They didn't say anything about the chorus. They might say, hey, great song, too slow for what we needed. Or this was a ballad and yours is a mid-up-tempo rock song. So, that you have to be able to decipher what is specific to the listing and what's good universal feedback. And, again, the screeners don't ever want to offend anybody. What people forget is they've had their music rejected too. These are people. We don't use AI for this. These are people giving your song an honest listen. They're comparing your submission to what the needs of the listing are, and they're offering feedback.
And they're not infusing their own personal taste. They may hate your song but forward it, or love it and not, because it just doesn't fit the brief.
Exactly.
That's, think of it as, maybe I shouldn't even say this because I've never used online dating. I've been married so long it wasn't a thing. But it's got to be like online dating where you fill out a profile, and if AI or whatever is matching people, and a young lady puts in that she's, maybe she's tall, maybe she's 5'8", 5'9", she's only looking for guys that are over 6 feet tall, and have dark hair and blue eyes, and you're 5'7" and have blonde hair, but strawberry blonde hair and freckles. She's not gonna see your profile because you don't match her request. That's the beauty of what we do at Taxi, and the beauty of the music licensing industry as a whole, is you always know what they're looking for and asking for. It's not like the old days of the record industry. Hey, I wrote a great song, knock, knock, knock. Hey, I wrote a great song, knock on another door. Wrote a great song. This is you're just giving them what they want. And for people who want to know why some members are moderately to wildly successful and other members aren't, it's the members who have figured out, all I have to do is pay attention, listen to the refs, maybe go expand my own listening journey to find out more about this genre. It's pretty good. It's Americana. I normally do country. I could probably do Americana. And they sit down and they nail it, and they give them what they ask for. No freckles.
It's not a lot deeper than that. It's really,
it really is.
It's really that. It really is that simple.
Yeah, people think that there's some magical formula. Well, there's the formula right there. Well, isn't there something that makes it go easier and faster? Yeah, that. Give them what they ask for, and don't think that I'm going to create something that's so amazing that they will no longer care what they've asked for. They've determined the need for that scene by having a meeting with the executive producer or the director and the music supervisor and or the editor, and they have determined that this scene would be best suited to have a depressing ballad about looking hard at my life, a lot of introspection. And you have the greatest up-tempo pop rock song ever written. Anybody who hears it go, that's going to be a hit. Not going to work in the scene. So give them a depressing ballad, damn it. All right. This one's from DJ Javi. Love the name. What happens when you've got like 200 submissions? How do you keep from missing something good that's near the end of the playlist?
We wouldn't miss anything,
right?
Because
I know that.
Yeah. It just first of all, it's not necessary that all 200 submissions would be assigned to the same screener,
right?
So there could be 4 screeners working on it at 50 in each of their queue. There could be 2 screeners with 100 in the queue, but it like we said earlier, they screen for 2 to 4 hours per shift, and then they scroll through it. It's impossible to miss anything, and they don't just get to their end of their shift and forward or return the last 3 because they don't want to do it. You have to spend a certain amount of time on each thing, and they have to fill out the form, and they have to sign off on it before they can go to the next one. So the way the system is set up, it would be impossible for them to miss anything.
We've got the fail-safe. We've got a team of people that watch all this stuff on the back.
It gets checked after that anyway.
So if there are 2 things that remain in the bucket, which is an electronic playlist, obviously, we're going to catch it and reach out to the screener. Oh, you missed 2. Oh, crap, it didn't. Oh, I got sick, got COVID, forgot about it.
And they wouldn't miss it. They just wouldn't have gotten to it yet.
Right,
so
exactly.
It's not like you can't scroll past it the way the system is
set up.
And
we can't finalize that batch and forward it to a client without making sure that everything has been heard. So we've got all these fail-safes built in there. But good question, DJ Javi. Richard Cox wants to know, do you ever forward too many tracks, or do you keep the list really short on purpose?
No, if something fits the listing, we've sent clients 50, 60, 75 things before, and we've sent them 0.
Remember the famous, I think you worked here as a screener then, but we ran a listing one time for instrumental drums only stuff that could be used in TV commercials or something. So it's just because it's simple percussion, by the way, simple is always better. Don't try to win percussionist of the year for those, because they don't pick it based on that. They pick it on, will this vibe with a car going around turns at night with the headlines on in a mountain setting, whatever they need it for. So we got 800 submissions. And
Nice.
40% of, which is huge. I mean, normally we get like 25 to 100 or maybe 150, 171. That would be like pretty respectable. But this one we got 800. And 40% got forwarded because they were good and they were on target. So we had now over 300 tracks to send to this library, and I could see the folks in the A&R department like pulling their hair out going, how can we send somebody 320 pieces of music? I knew the library owner. We know all of our clients, by the way, but I knew this one particularly well. I called him up and went, dude, we have a bit of a situation here. We found you 320 tracks that are all over the quality bar and all on target for what you're asking for. But we know better than to send you 320 things because you're not even going to open it. Or you're going to open it, see 320 and go, nah. So I said, can we send you like 75 a week? Do you need any, is this an emergency? Do you need it for a show like tomorrow? No, I was just looking to fill in that type of stuff so I've got more of it to pitch. How about if we send you 75 a week? Thank you, that's doable. So that's how we solved the problem. Here's one from Glenn Early, probably married to Inolate. Sorry. How close do we need to be to the reference tracks? Like the same vibe or almost exact? That's a good question.
Should be able to follow them. It should be.
But what about them? Do we want them to copy them and sound just like?
No, because then you get hit with plagiarism and
There's that.
and that's not the idea. The idea is if there's 3 or 4 references, you want to come up with the 5th reference.
Something, that just things they should look at. In my opinion, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the head screener. If I were a Taxi member, I would. New members often think they want something that sounds just like that. No. Listen to the 3 references. Are they all in a major key? Yes. Do they all have like a positive vibe to them? Yes. Are they all about 120 beats per minute? Yeah. Do they all have a female vocal that's singing with a little bit of sassiness in her voice? Yes, they do. Those are the things they want you to look at, not to sound just like the references. They're not looking to replace it with sound-alikes because that gets everybody in trouble. But if the vibe for that track would work in that scene, can you create, and you don't know the scene, it's imaginary in your brain, but would my thing be on the same playlist and be a possibility to work in a scene like that one? Did I do good?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Here's one from Hannah Ariella. Do most people get a bunch of returns before they ever land a forward? Isn't that the ultimate question?
Yeah, I mean, we get that a lot. I'm a new Taxi member. None of my stuff's been forwarded. There can be a little bit of a learning curve. It's not a bad curve, but a lot of new members do dumb things. And one of the dumbest things they do is skip your new member Zoom, right? Don't you tell them exactly what they need to do the day they join?
Yes. Well, we do a thing called a new member Zoom on the first Wednesday of every month, barring holidays or other things that might change the date. And it's about an hour and 45 minutes long. And we cover so much stuff because we noticed after being in business for like 20 years, or 30 years, I think we'd gone that long, that people were making the same newbie mistakes and they weren't learning the things that they really needed to know, even though we provide the newsletter, we do TAXITV, we do the road rally, all this stuff to educate you guys, because it's not just about ain't that a pretty song. There's so much that you need to learn because you're learning an industry and how to be a business. You are the business within that industry.
So people will email me and they'll go, I've been a member for 2 months. I want my money back. It's a scam. And I say, okay, well, did you watch the new member Zoom? Well, no. Okay. Did you read the listing? Well, no. Did you listen to the references? No. It said I needed an Americana song and I had one and I uploaded it and they said it got returned, that it wasn't good. And it's, well, okay, yeah, it was male vocals, electric guitar. You sent female vocal, singer-songwriter with acoustic guitar, the wrong tempo. Like, everything is wrong, the whole thing.
But we're a scam.
And I those emails are, the good news for me is they're easy to write because I can spot right away. Okay, you didn't do the new member Zoom. So it's like getting a new computer, but you didn't read the manual, or like getting a DAW, but you don't know how digital audio works and you skip the orientation. It's like, find out like what we do here and how it works. That's probably 90% of it right there. Don't skip the new member Zoom. So yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of new members do get quite a few returns out of the gate because they're not pitching accurately. They're not reading the whole listing. They'll read the headline and that's it. Yep, I got it. Oh, hip hop. I got it. Okay, but you got 18 F-bombs in there. It says it's for TV. And then you're shocked that it gets returned. It's like, well, yeah, when was the last time you put on NBC and heard the F word 4 times before the chorus?
I got to tell you,
they're mad at me. They're mad. Oh, Taxi's a scam. You just take people's money.
And then they go online and tell everybody else we're a scam based on their own lack of due diligence.
It's like, come on, bro.
It's upsetting.
Give us a chance. First of all, and you take time out to do that new member Zoom. So check that out, and I think people are just constantly looking for a shortcut that isn't there. Like, as if you're going to join Taxi, you're going to send in a piece of music and somebody's going to write you a check for $500 the next. It just, I don't know. And I also think there's a little bit of misconception how the licensing industry works in general. And we covered this at the rally 2 or 3 years ago. I think I was on a panel. It was you, me, and Mason and some other people. Okay. But the normal trajectory for something to work, when it works smoothly and efficiently, you submit to Taxi, then maybe you get a forward, then the library reaches out to you and you send it to them with the proper delivery requirements. That's another whole Taxi episode. They ingest it into the library. The library sends out that playlist to a TV show. The TV show does select your music and they put it in, they sync it to the show. Then the show airs maybe 6 months later, maybe 9 months later. Then BMI or ASCAP or your PRO of choice has another 3 to 6 months to pay you after the show airs. So at the speed of light, that process before COVID was about 18 months. Mm-hmm. Now it's even longer. So again, there's just a little bit of delusion with the newer members that you're going to join one day and somebody's going to write you a check for thousands the next week. And it's the process.
And because you got that check, everybody else in the industry is going to beat a path to your door.
Right.
I want some of your music too.
Because you had Underscore on Animal Planet at 3 a.m. All of a sudden you're famous now. And it's like, so there's a certain amount of education that needs to happen before your music is going to be useful to people. And I think doing simple things to educate yourself, watching the new member Zoom, watching TAXITV each week, get a custom. If you get 10 pieces of music returned, spend the $20 and get a custom. I know you don't like those because they're an upsell. They feel like we're...
No, I mean, we actually lose money on them. It's not that I don't like them. I always forget to promote them.
Right.
I've been forgetting for 30 years. We do custom critiques that are, like $20?
Something like that, yeah.
Sometimes the screeners will spend $50 worth of their time on a $20 critique. I will admit that on one hand, people rave about the custom critiques. On the other hand, one year we actually did a financial analysis of it. We lost about $6,000 that year.
Yeah, but the screeners do like doing those, and the members' response from those has always been good.
Right.
I don't know if I've ever gotten a complaint about the custom critique because we're able to, okay, this is a hip-hop cue, we'll send it to these 3 people over here. Oh, it's a country cue, we'll send it to our people in Nashville to give it a fair shakedown for, this, that, and the other thing. So we're able to gear it towards the professional that would do the service the best, So those are options and tools for people that they're not taking advantage of. And, you should, before you call to complain, take advantage of some of the things that Taxi offers you to get a little bit better.
By the way, Liz, you may have done this already. I can't see the chat because I can see it, just not that clearly because the computer's further away to get us both in the frame here. But could you go find the most recent new member Zoom that I did and post the YouTube link in the chat so anybody that's not seen one and wants to? People absolutely love them. And you know what? I got to tell you, again, we don't make a penny if you come to the Road Rally. What we get is better members that make better music, submit it more appropriately, get deals with that music because they've gotten this incredible education and networking that takes place at the rally. And then they go out and spread the gospel about Taxi versus Taxi's a scam because the guy didn't do any of the stuff. It's like you can't be a play at Wimbledon because you go whack tennis balls, 3 times a year with your teenage kid. But I want to play Wimbledon. Well,
yeah, I want to play shortstop for the Red Sox, but I suck at baseball, and so yeah.
There's that.
Right.
Okay. And as far as Hannah Ariella's question about do most people get a bunch of returns before they ever land a forward, Matt Vanderbo, who's one of our all-time most successful members, and he will be at the rally, and he's going to be on several panels and stuff, and we'll be doing one-to-one mentoring where you can have 15 minutes to play your music and say, Matt, what do you think? He's also, I'm putting him on the instrumental cue listening panel this year. One of our panelists, a music library owner, decided last minute, or found out last minute they couldn't make it. And I wanted to put somebody on the panel who's got a lot of energy and great ears, so I put Matt Vanderbo. He confirmed over the weekend about that. So Matt Vanderbo, I'm doing this from memory, but I think he said that he got something like 70 or 80 returns in his first year of being a member because he wasn't doing any of the right stuff. Once he figured it out, now he's got music playing every hour of the day all over the globe. It took him a couple of years to make that transition, to go from knowing nothing to figuring it out and then applying what he learned, putting it to work. Here's one question from Kevin Shea. How do you train new screeners so they all judge stuff the same way?
Interesting. Well, we don't want them to all judge stuff the same way. And, you want different feedback and stuff. I think that's going to make things stronger. Plus, all screeners are hired based on their expertise in a particular field. There's a few that do more than one genre, obviously. Like you said before, country, Americana, some singer-songwriter, not that much of a stretch to have one screener cover those 3 things. But, typically your instrumental and orchestral guys are one area. So there's a few general things that we do to train them. One is obviously think about it like an educational experience. Keep a mentor-like attitude. Give them actionable things to fix about the cue, or the song. Don't say easy things. I can't tell you how many times when I was doing albums or projects with other people, a critic would say, "Oh, the singer is a little pitchy." Yeah, okay, that's an easy thing. The drummer's time is a little funky in a live situation. Yeah, okay, that's an easy thing. You don't need to know anything about music to say that. It's indefinite, it's subjective. I try to tell the screeners to stay off the subjective stuff that isn't helpful. Oh, the time, this is a live recording, the time is a little shifty. Yeah, it's live. It is. The hip hop, oh, the groove is a little quantized. Well, yeah, it's a loop. So stay away from the easy comments. Give people actionable things where if they fix it, it will make the cue better. Stick to the brief. This is something that I brought when I became the head screener here. Once I saw how much detail goes into writing those briefs and how accurate they are, we became more brief-based as a company. And a lot of the questions and the reasons for the return are in the brief. Read the brief. The screeners read it. They use the same brief to screen that we post on the website for you guys to submit.
And they have no other inside baseball information that you're not getting.
They don't know who the client is either.
Right.
They're just brief-based. So everything you need is in there. The references, the deal points, the screeners don't need to take that in. That doesn't really pertain to them as much. But, is it a label pitch? Is it for sync? Is it for TV? Is it, those kinds of things. The screeners are again, I encourage them to be more brief-based. And I think that's what gets left out of a lot of when people call in to complain, how come it got returned? Well, the first thing I do is look at the brief. So you can arm yourself with that same knowledge.
Here's one from this one's from Robert Galley, sorry. For songs with lyrics, do the words matter as much as the overall vibe and production?
Read it one more time. For
songs with lyrics, do the words matter as much as the overall vibe and production?
If it's a lyric prompt, yeah. I mean, if it's a what's a lyric prompt we had lately? Songs about love, that's a little too generic. I'm trying to think of one. Songs about hope. Okay, a little less generic than songs about love, but still a lyric prompt nonetheless. So it depends on what the references are, but yeah, the lyrics would be just as important as the production. You need the full thing. Again, if they're looking for a song to end a scene in Grey's Anatomy when 2 doctors fall in love, but then their child dies. They need a song about hope, so you
should be a TV writer.
Oh, hey, I got all, it's all Scooby-Doo anyways, but like, yeah, the whole thing matters, and you need a strongly produced song with good sounds and great instrumentation, and if they give you a lyric prompt, yeah, you need to follow it because that's what they're looking for.
And even if they don't, 10 years ago, we worried a lot more about specific names, dates, times, places mentioned in lyrics because that was the mandate that we got from the industry who was using us as their main resource. I would say 80%, if I had to wing a guess, 80% of the songs that get used are background source, meaning that somebody walks into a bar and there's something playing on a jukebox 50 feet away. You can hardly hear what it is and you can't hear the lyric. So in that case, the music supervisor doesn't care if it says, I met Debbie on New Year's Eve under the arch in St. Louis on a snowy night. And it was freezing cold and our cab didn't come in time. Normally, every one of those things would disqualify the pitch. In this case, the music supervisor doesn't care because you can't hear it as the viewer at home. However, as a music library owner, you know that thing can't be pitched very often and won't be licensed very often because it's got all those specifics in there. So sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. Do your best and pitch your best, and you're always somewhat, if not a lot, better off pitching stuff with universal, general lyrics. Like I'm married to a woman named Deborah. Who would have guessed? Didn't meet her in St. Louis under the arch though. But if I just wrote, I met a girl, she changed my life, my heart did cartwheels. That's pretty generic. Mm-hmm. That could be used in all kinds of different scenes rather than I met Deb under the arch on a freezing cold New Year's Eve and it was snowing out. Okay, this one's from Khalil Giancomo. I've had returns that say, great track, just not for this one. Should I take that as a win or is that just a nice way of saying no?
When I used to screen, I would have that where somebody submitted a great song, but it wasn't right for the listing. So, yeah, I would take that as a win. And then just, go listen to the Forwards blog and find out why it didn't. If your song doesn't fit with the rest of the songs on the Forwards blog, that's your answer to that question right there. But, yeah, I think if the screener doesn't have anything, if they didn't offer any improvements or they didn't have anything negative to say about it, yeah, I would take that as a win. It just didn't fit that listing.
Yeah, they're not blowing smoke up your
No, they don't, because they're anonymous too, so they can say whatever they want,
Right. I love it though. We do trade the screeners to communicate to people as human beings. How would you want to hear this? So I love it when people say, "Oh, they trashed me." No, in the history of this company, only one time in 33 years can I ever remember calling a screener down to my office and firing them right there on the spot because they said, you think this song is good enough to pitch or something like that. They should have said this song's not quite ready for prime time yet.
Right.
Versus, you think this is good enough to pitch?
Right.
I fired the screener and he's been trashing me publicly ever since. Okay, here's one from Ned Van Cleve. Have you ever returned a song and later thought, maybe I should have forwarded that?
I haven't because, we make decisions and we stick by it. But, I don't doubt that some screeners may lay awake at night and go, man, I hope I didn't screw that person. I think the screeners do a pretty good job.
They would have asked you.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence.
Yeah, they would send it to me and go, hey, I'm going to go ahead and forward this. I'm not 100% sure it's right. Or I returned this. Go ahead and give it one more listen before you sign off. So, again, we have a couple levels for just that reason. So I don't think it would wreck anybody's day, but yeah, it's at the end of the day, they're people too. I think when people call in breathing fire about this screener doesn't know anything, blah blah, it's an actual person. They're a professional. Like the screeners are full-time professionals in their field, and they screen for us part-time. We have a person who conducts symphonies, who conducts the orchestra at Royal Albert Hall for movie trailers, screening the trailers. Yeah. So when I get a complaint saying this screener doesn't know shit about blah blah, I'm like, oh, okay, right. You just got back from Abbey Road doing the new Iron Man, whatever, okay. So yeah, and they're all nice, and they all care, and they want to help you get better. So if you get offended by something, I would take it with a grain of salt, because it's a human being that's trying to help you out. They have nothing to gain from being negative from an anonymous number. It's like putting F2537 at hotmail.com and posting in a chat room on Twitter or something. Like, you have nothing to gain from that. Nobody knows. I mean, so there's no, it's none of them are mean. They're all very mentor-like, and they're happy to help.
They do see themselves as mentors, and we tell them that when they start. Your job is to, figuratively speaking, put your arm around them and go, I like this because, but this didn't work for this.
But don't give us fluff either. Say, if the ending's not right, say, hey, this ending, it needs to be rewritten. You need a cadence here. It needs to resolve. It was cut off. If you're offended by that, then, maybe the music industry isn't for you, because it's a constructive thing to say, hey, your ending needs a cadence and it needs to resolve. Ending could be better, and you can't, we want it to be actionable too. You gotta be able to give them something that makes the cue better, and you can't be offended by that.
You got to go to the road rally. I mean, everything you're learning today. Craig is doing a great job. He's very articulate and knows.
I try.
No, you do. You do a really good job. And imagine, dozens of people at this level giving you what they know. Are you going to get that in Peoria, Illinois? No. You could join a songwriters circle. You're going to hear from other songwriters who haven't made it yet. The road rally, you will be surrounded by people in the industry. They don't get paid to come and do this. They do it because they like to give back, because they feel fortunate to have a job in an industry they wanted to actually be in. So you get people who are this articulate, this knowledgeable, that you can walk up and have a beer with, that you can book 15 minutes with a one-to-one with them at no charge. Other people charge like $35 or something for that. The panels are incredible. You got to come. Seriously, you're thinking, well, maybe I won't fit in. I won't know anybody. Yeah, you will actually know people from this chat. You will get to know people on the Taxi forum, who then, when you get to the road rally, you're communicating with them 2 days before you go. Okay, let's meet at the hotel lobby bar at 7 p.m. on Friday. You've got their cell phone number. A whole new world that gives you real entree into the real music industry awaits you, and it's free. All you have to do is make it there. And I know, maybe you're coming from, New Hampshire, and it's a $400 flight, and the hotel room's $170 a night or something like that. You know what? We have a rule in our household. We pay off our credit cards every month. We have no balance on a single credit card in the history of this family. That guy, me, is encouraging you. Spend $1,000, add it to the balance of your credit card, because it will pay off many, many, many times over. If my wife came to me and said, she's a big history nut. She's actually a professional tour guide now. And if she came to me and said, there's a seminar that I've got to go to that I think is going to be life-changing for me, it's $1,000, I'd say, for that, do it. That's not a purchase. It's an investment. If you really want to be in the real music industry, your life will get changed at the road rally. We'll take it. We've got like another 7 minutes or so. So we'll take a couple questions from you guys in the chat.
I will say this: if Matt Vanderbilt ever fell out of the music business for some reason, I think he'd be just fine, because he could probably play in the NFL or something, right? He could, or he could be a bouncer.
He is,
or an arm wrestling professional.
He's a tanning expert. Matt is a bodybuilder, and here's a question. So
I'm going to have him at the luncheon to be my bouncer.
There you go. If a listing says AI alert, I got it, no AI. If a listing does not say AI alert, which is becoming rare, is there a situation where an AI vocal would be acceptable? For somebody at a record company looking for a song that an artist is going to cut, if you use an AI vocal on the demo, that wouldn't bother them because they're not going to air with it. Like a production music library can't pitch stuff. The networks can't air music that is created with AI. Could you use AI mastering? Yes. Could you use an AI plugin? Probably. But the minute you start creating melody, creating tracks, creating lyrics using AI, you're creating something that cannot be copyrighted because the copyright law says you can only copyright creations made by a human. They're trying to work it out, figure it out. There's certainly some value in using AI as a tool. Hopefully the day won't come where just any Tom, Dick, or Harry can create music with AI and beat the crap out of people who've worked really hard to learn their craft over a period of years. But for the people who have learned their craft to use AI as a tool, I'm looking forward to see how that plays out. But again, to summarize, yeah, if it's for film and TV, no AI for creation or generation. If it's, if you've got a song that's got a male vocal on it, it's a country song, and a taxi listing says, publisher in Nashville looking for country songs with a female vocal, and you use AI to take that male vocal and make it a female because you live in Peoria and can't find another vocalist, first thing you should do is go to the taxi forum, find a fellow member that can do it for you, do it with a real human because it will be better. But if you can't solve the problem that way for a country demo pitch, I don't think they're going to get freaked by taking a male vocal and making it AI or female. Question from Jeff Watts. What synthesizers are being used? Stranger Things, used Moog. What's new? I don't really understand that question.
It's mostly, VSTs and sound banks and stuff. I don't know if it's an actual keyboard anymore.
Yeah.
You buy the sample packs. Multimedia is selling an AI vocal changer. It's scary good. If the listing doesn't say no AI.
Here's a question from Katrina Seifert. Hi, Katrina. For Craig. Oh, like I can't answer it now. Favorite drum sound libraries to use for those of us who are drummers.
Wow.
He is a drummer. He's like a world-class drummer, by the way.
Wow. That's a great question I get all the time. I create almost all my sounds live. I have 5 sets of drums, and then I used to use addictive drums in the box a little bit. I use some of the house sounds or the stock sounds that come with Cubase. Most of the DAWs come with pretty decent sounds that can be manipulated. Pro Tools, Logic, Studio One, Reaper, all of them have decent sounds. But there are good drum sample packs out there. Honestly, I find out a lot about that stuff from some of my students. I know Addictive Drums was the one I used to use. And then for drum replacement and stuff, some of the Steven Slate stuff is pretty good too. Like if you do a whole track and you're not happy with your snare drum sound, you can put the Steven Slate plug-in on one of your tracks, and it'll give you another snare drum, and you can choose the one to either replace the one that's there or just layer it in with what's there. And you can manipulate a lot of sounds that way, in addition to manipulating the EQ, the reverb, the slapback, that kind of thing.
Do you own a Black Beauty?
I don't.
You're kidding.
No, it's on the list of things just to own. I have 7 or 8 snare drums. My claim to fame is I have a custom-made Noble and Cooley that they made just for me.
Wow.
But I do not own a Black Beauty. I will acquire one at some point. It is on the list.
I was back when I was still pushing buttons. One day, a drummer showed up for a session, and he said, "Do I have to use the snare that's with the studio kit, or can I use my own?" I said, "Oh, by all means, use your own." And I didn't even look at what he unpacked and set up. And I went in the control room and heard bap, and I went, "Oh my God, yeah. I am in love. What is that?" I hadn't even started EQing it. I had my assistant set the mic. Nothing special. Oh my God. And it was a Black Beauty. And I think back then they were like $700. I have no idea what they cost now.
They're a couple thousand.
Oh yeah, this was like 1977-ish. I literally finished up the session and drove to Ace Music in North Miami and bought a Black Beauty.
They certainly set the standard.
Rob Shirelli and I were hanging out the other night watching a movie or something, and I think they said Black Beauty in the context of the movie. I said, speaking of Black Beauties, do you own one? He goes, oh, Rob's got a Boston accent. Yeah. Oh, my God. He went on for 20 minutes about how much he loves them. Anyway. Any other questions? Because we're almost we're done.
Anyways,
we are. It's 5:30.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I'll be at the rally.
You will be.
Come say hi.
Better job than usual.
Oh, really? Like the last one? So don't watch the older episodes?
No, you always
delete those from the archive?
You raised the bar today. You did a really good job.
Cool.
Thank you for coming back in to do this. Don't forget, rally rooms are 70% gone already. Eat and greet tickets, get them now. We actually took a few of the tables out of this room this year. We're trying to see if we can tone down the general ambient noise in the room because people do complain about that. But I'm telling you guys, come to the Road Rally. It will change your life.
We're about a month out, right?
5 weeks, I think.
Okay.
And we don't make a penny if you come or you don't. Literally not a penny. There have been plenty of years where we've lost money on the Road Rally. One year I had to write a check for $25,000 to make up the shortfall after the rally. That was painful.
I'm sorry.
But the satisfaction we get from the staff doing an amazing job every year, which they always do, and people just sending us emails like, this was life-changing. I can't believe I didn't come for the last 3 years. I thought you were hyping the whole thing, so I didn't come. Trust me, you will love the Road Rally. Liz, can you please post a link to where they can sign up for the Road Rally? And see you guys next week. Remember, don't forget, after this show wraps and you can put something in the comments on YouTube, the person who pitches me the best reason that they would be a good person to be on next week's TAXITV is going to be my guest. I don't know what to do if nobody does a good job. I'm not going to take like the least bad one. So post some good stuff in there. And what else? I had one other thing to tell. Oh yeah, Ronan Chris Murphy will be here in 2 weeks. Thank you all. Enjoyed having you here. Enjoyed having you guys ask great questions. Thank you to folks who emailed in. We will see you next week for another exciting episode of TAXITV Live.
Bye everybody.
Keith LeBrand playing us out. He's going to be on the panel this year.